Hey guys, I got another video for you today. I will put up the question of the day first, and then right after that we'll actually check homework. So I'll put some time up for you to get those things out, get ready, and then we'll do question of the day, homework, and then right into the new information. Here we're using words to put into this paragraph to make it make sense. So, blank is a process. We should have photosynthesis here. Photosynthesis is a process in which sunlight energy is used to make glucose. Remember, photosynthesis actually means to put together with light. So we're putting together glucose with light. The site of photosynthesis, of course, is going to be the chloroplast, an organelle found in the green, in the leaves of green plants. The main function of chloroplast is to produce food during photosynthesis and to store energy. Chloroplasts contain the pigment chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs most of the colors of the color spectrum and reflects only green and yellow wavelengths. We talked about yesterday, that's why we see green, because those colors are reflected. What is photosynthesis and where does it occur? Okay, that is a little ridiculous. It's pretty much, it tells us right up here. Let's draw an arrow. There we go. That's what photosynthesis is, and that's what it occurs. What are chloroplasts function in a plant cell? To make glucose. Okay, part B here. Glucose is another name for sugar. The molecular formula for glucose is C6H12O6. That was in the word bank up at the top. Oh, we even see it down here. You can copy it straight from there. Plants make sugar by using the energy from light, or sunlight, I forget what it says up there, to transform carbon dioxide from the air with water from the ground into glucose. And that's something that's important that we're going to talk about today more. A lot of people don't realize that water is an important part of photosynthesis. We all know, okay, plants take in carbon dioxide, they give off oxygen, but water is actually an integral part of what happens there. This process called photosynthesis occurs. During this process, oxygen is created as a waste product, released in the air. Here's the formula. The formula says that carbon dioxide and water molecules are combined with the energy from the sunlight to produce sugar and oxygen. The reactants are carbon dioxide, water, and sun. The plant gives water. Okay, looking over this, this is fairly redundant. Okay, but this is a good question right here, even though it says so, says the same thing up above. What three things are used to make glucose? We need to know these. Water, carbon dioxide, and light. So if you want to affect the photosynthesis rate of a plant, if you want to slow down its photosynthesis, you can either shade it over so it doesn't have any sun. You can enclose it so that it doesn't get any carbon dioxide, or you can not water it, because water, even though it's important in a lot of the other parts of plants, if the plant doesn't have water, it can't do photosynthesis. Okay, in the process of photosynthesis, what does chlorophyll do? It absorbs sunlight. Of course, we know not all wavelengths of sunlight. only a few different colors. And then which color of light is least important for a green plant during photosynthesis? Well, it tells you right there. Green plants don't use green light. All right, we're going to move on to the learning part for today. And today, pretty much above any other day, is the one you really want to pay attention to. We're going to go over a lot of stuff. This whole process of photosynthesis is a little complex. We'll break it down. We should be able to put it into understandable parts, break it up into bits. But we really got to make sure we're following along the whole way through. Now, because it is so complex, we are going to take a couple days to look at this, but we can't just buzz over it and think we're going to learn it. So yesterday we talked about stage 1. Stage 1 was where light hits the chlorophyll. The energy from that light is going to bounce an electron out of that molecule. So stage 2, if you remember from the other day, is called the electron transport chain. Because once that electron gets bounced out of the molecule, it's got to have some place to go. So first we're going to write down the steps of stage 2, the electron transport chain. The things that happen during the electron transport chain, and then we'll kind of look at a picture and see how that is actually all put together in the chloroplast itself, in the thylakoid. So remember, this does happen in the thylakoid, and we say it's one of the light-dependent reactions. Okay. Obviously, stage 1 is a light-dependent reaction. If there's no light, stage 1 isn't going to happen. If stage 1 doesn't happen, if you don't have those electrons being ejected, stage 2 can't happen, as we'll see. So stage 2 and stage 1 are called the light-dependent reactions, because if you shut the light off, those things are going to stop. As we'll see, stage 3 can kind of keep going as long as it's got certain materials. Okay, the first part of stage 2 is that the electrons are going to bounce from molecule to molecule. So the electron, the light hits the chlorophyll, bounces that electron out. That's the first part. And that electron is going to bounce from one molecule to another. It's kind of looking for a home. It doesn't have a place to go. It goes into one molecule, but that molecule already has enough electrons. It can't stay there, so it bounces to another one, to another one. And it's going to keep doing that until it finds a place to go. Now, as it bounces along, the electron loses energy. And that loss of energy is going to drive enzymes. So the electron, as it bounces from molecule to molecule, is going to kind of give up some of its energy to certain enzymes that are going to be in the thylakoid. And those enzymes are going to make a certain molecule called NADPH. Okay? Now, NADPH is just a special molecule that can store energy. It's sort of like ATP, but it has a different structure. So we can't make ATP right here, but it can make ATP's slightly inferior cousin, NADPH. That NADPH can then carry energy to another part of the photosynthesis experience. Okay, the third part is that light splits water molecules. This is a process that we call photolysis. You remember, lysis means to break, and photo means light. So we're breaking apart water molecules with light waves. So not only is light important in bouncing electrons out of the chlorophyll molecules, but as we see here, it's also important because it splits water molecules. So that's another reason why the second part of photosynthesis is a light-dependent reaction. Without light, you're not going to have those water molecules being split. Now those water molecules, when they split, they get split into an H plus and an OH minus. And if we think about it, positive and negative, when they're together in the water molecule, we cancel each other out. You have two H's and an O. But when the water molecule gets split, you end up with an H plus and that OH minus. And that H plus can then go on in part 4 here. I have messed with my colors. Let's make that black. Part 4 is that the H plus ions, so the hydrogen ion that comes from the water molecule, is going to go through facilitated diffusion . It's going to go through facilitated diffusion out of the thylakoid . When it does that, when it goes through those carrier proteins that are transferring the hydrogen from the inside to the outside, that is going to make ATP. So there's a special protein where these hydrogen ions work kind of like water over a water wheel. As they run out, and they're going to do so because of diffusion, there's going to be a buildup of those H plus ions from the splitting of water in the thylakoid. They're going to try to spread out. So they're going to go through these carrier proteins to get out of the thylakoid. When they do, that is going to drive that protein to make ATP. Just like water over a water wheel can drive it to use to, I don't know, make flour or whatever the heck they did with water wheels back when. Okay? So those are the steps of stage 2. You can see, it's kind of complex. You have this electron that's bouncing from molecule to molecule. As it does that, it makes this NADPH. We've got light splitting water molecules up. The H plus from those water molecules diffuses to the outside of the thylakoid. It moves out of the thylakoid into the stroma. And as it does that, as it goes through that carrier protein, it's going to make ATP. And these two things are then going to be important in stage 3. That's kind of the point of stage 2, is to make these energy-carrying molecules, the NADPH and the ATP, because those can then go on to stage 3. Okay, here's a diagram that's going to show that basic process. So here's light. A photon is just another name for light. It's a way to describe light. So this light is going to come in. It's going to hit the chlorophyll. Electrons are going to jump from molecule to molecule. As they do that, through these systems, through this electron transport chain here, those are going to make that NADPH. So over here we see in this part of the diagram the NADPH that's being made from those electrons in the electron transport chain. Okay. The other thing that happens here, down here, is the water. Water gets split up. You're going to make these hydrogens. You're also going to make, eventually, oxygen. It first makes an OH, as we talked about, but then eventually that's going to be get turned into oxygen by another process. So they're just kind of simplifying that right here. And this is where the oxygen actually comes from. We think of plants taking in carbon dioxide. Of course, CO2 has oxygen in it, but those oxygen atoms actually don't get released as the oxygen that we breathe. Those oxygens right there are going to end up in glucose. In fact, in this part, we haven't even seen carbon dioxide yet. Carbon dioxide doesn't come into effect until the third stage, which we're not going to learn about until tomorrow. So here, the water that's being split up, that's where the oxygen actually comes from. And we know that because of a fairly ingenious experiment that was done where scientists took special radioactive oxygen atoms and they were able to put those in carbon dioxide and let the plant use them and see where it came out. And then they were able to put them in water molecules and let the plant use them and see where they came out. And radioactive particles are nice because as they go through radioactive decay, they release radiation. Which, it sounds dangerous, but if you do it at a small level, it's really not going to affect the plant or yourself that much. But they're able to get a signal from that radioactive decay. So when they did that, they saw that when they tagged carbon dioxide on the oxygen atoms on carbon dioxide, you didn't see it in the oxygen that was released from the plant. When you take the water molecules, then you actually saw it come out. Okay, this animation is going to show a little bit the stage 1 and stage 2 reactions. We'll play it a couple times here so you can see it happening. So I'll play it once and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm sure you caught all that. We can kind of step through this. So here, we have a water molecule down in the lower left-hand corner. Here comes a light wave. So that water molecule, as that light wave comes along, is going to get split. Okay? We've got electrons that are given up. And that's one thing that I sort of forgot to say back in the other things. We talked about the electrons jumping from molecule to molecule, and they need a place to go. Well, the water molecule ends up being that place where they can end up. So the water molecule provides a home for that electron that's bouncing around. So when that happens, it gets split, we get oxygen, but more importantly, we get these H+ ions. So as we step this along a little bit further, those H+ ions are going to build up here. So the bottom part would be the inside of the thylakoid. Here we have another light ray that's going to come along and start another electron transport chain. Here we have NADPH that's being made. So that's one of those carrier molecules, or sorry, those energy molecules that's going to be used later. And down here in the lower right-hand corner, you can see all these H+ molecules, these H+ ions. They're built up and they want to get to the outside because there's not really any H+ ions out there. Or at least there's a low concentration. They're going to do so through this weird light bulb looking thing, which is going to be the carrier protein. As they go through the carrier protein, we'll see they flow through the carrier protein, and as they do that, they drive the production of ATP. So each time those molecules go through, they're going to make, I mean, it works sort of like that, like I said, like a water wheel turns it. It's going to make that, it's going to produce ATP. That ATP can then go on with the NADPH to the stage 3 reactions. So I know there's a lot of stuff to kind of take in here. That's all there is to stage 2. Then tomorrow we'll have to learn about stage 3. Eventually we'll have to put all this stuff together and be able to explain from start to finish. It'll take a little bit of work, but we'll spend a couple days on it until we get it down. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I don't have any homework for you for Friday. Tomorrow is the jazz concert, so we're not really going to have class. Don't forget to do your question of the day.